A true brand is really the feeling that you had with the last time that you interacted with a company. That's, and that's an individual feeling that I've got. And obviously we want to have that be a positive impact as often as we possibly can. And so one of the ways that we do that is we have a very strong visual brand that ideally is communicating the beliefs that we have as a community.
The future of our industry is going to be based upon powerfully branded products that are effective and science-based. That is going to give longevity and stability to any company. I've dedicated myself, as well as the company and our marketing and our sales function, to define who we are as a company. And part of that comes back to our visual brand. Because really, what is the visual brand? It's the visual story of who we are as a company.
To explain how we landed on the design decisions that we made ends up being pretty dang simple, because the two core messages that we really need to communicate are we've already distilled down to a simple few words.
The first is that we are at the forefront of this new science of nutrigenomics. The second is that your growth is the way of our future, and we're dedicated to that growth of you as an individual.
When you consider the basic building blocks of your brand, they've got to be simple enough yet proprietary enough that they can communicate everywhere where it needs to be communicated. And that's a challenge that our basic building blocks of our current visual brand has. Like, how do we associate those things with science? And we can't really, when we look at them outside the context of the rest of the visual brand, if that makes sense. So we wanted to be able to solve those challenges, at the same time infuse both a proprietary and a more bold look that's going to pop much better off the side of a building, off the side of a Jeep, a business card, your shirt, or a hat. To be totally frank, we started with the logo type, knowing that we had some challenges that we needed to solve. We needed to be looking forward, first and foremost, on the RSL jersey. That's a place where we get massive reach, right? So that you've really got to be able to see the word LifeVantage when those players are out there doing their best to represent their community and, in a way, ours, right? So it was important to us to be able to communicate science and look at home on that jersey. The idea that your growth is the way of our future is an important one to us. And so we actually communicate that in a very subtle way in the logo type itself, where the I connects with the F. And it just so happens that I is the first letter of the individual. And the way that it connects with the F is a signal of the importance of the growth of the individual and what that means to the community. And F happens to be the first letter in family as well. So we thought making those decisions purposely is actually kind of cool. I recognize that a story like this one isn't something that someone would most likely be able to see just by looking at it, but we like layers of discovery. Once we got that nailed down, we realized that we needed to have an associating mark. So when we set out to redesign the logo mark that communicates our brand, it made a lot of sense to take that plus that we've been using on the Pro Tandem packages, where you see the double helix and then a plus in a very specific point in that double helix, obviously speaking to the fact that we are at the forefront of nutrigenomics and we're upregulating the human genome. That plus can actually continue to speak to nutrigenomics and the science of nutrigenomics, but it also is a direct correlation to our belief in your growth being the way of our future. So then, in order to create a proprietary and very simple mark, we needed more of a shape, because just a little plus right there I didn't think was proprietary enough to really communicate our story. So one of the quickest ways to communicate science, and therefore nutrigenomics, is a hexagon, because a hexagon is a carbon ring, so you see it quite often in molecular diagrams. We also took that little dot that can be kind of called an atom, if you will, in the upper right-hand corner of the logo mark itself. And when the two work together, you can see that atom shape in the logo mark lines up perfectly with the I in LifeVantage, which is also the individual connecting with the family.
And we're really transitioning from being a purely US brand to becoming a global science giant. And I think that we've accurately captured the importance that science has to us as a company, and that we reflect that in the product and who we are visually as a company.
The global nature of our current business, knowing that we're going to be going into other markets, and also knowing that there's other challenges that we can solve in the current markets that we're in, really informs the design decisions that we make, so that those design elements that we create work in all those situations. Is it going to work in one color really small? Yes. Is it going to work embroidered on a shirt? You know, is it going to look great on a big screen inside Rio Tinto Stadium? Yes, absolutely.
I think of seeing some of these new elements on our Jeeps that are parked outside of some of our meetings. The new logos would just pop on those, and it's just a bold statement that you're making.
And in fact, we've got shapes that are so communicative and simple and proprietary that like man, we could even like stamp that into sand and it's going to communicate.
To me, that conveys science, it conveys stability, it makes us look modern, and I like it.
So it becomes imperative to continually look at how well we are telling our future-facing story. I mean, a great example is Coca-Cola, whether people know it or not, they change their logo every year. They change it ever so slightly to make sure that it's up to date. You can see it quicker if you look at, you know, the logo today and the logo that they were using 10 years ago. But I'd be willing to bet that very few people recognize the fact that Coca-Cola's logo has ever changed. Kind of fascinating, right? So we definitely need to be taking a look at the current status of where things are, where we know we're going to go, and make sure that our brand is communicating in all the places it needs to communicate, and purely speaking to the current core story and belief structure of our community. That's what gets me really, really excited about the future of LifeVantage, is we're getting much better at telling a really fascinating story and a really unique story, and it really creates some incredible strength that I don't see anywhere else in the industry.